Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. I am Jack, joined by...
Dominic Castillo.
And Giovanni.
Alright, so we are back here today. No intro because we got a lot to talk about in our main topic. But, to keep things short and quick, how have you guys been?
I have been okay so far. I'm a little sick again. Work has been pretty okay. We got to do the Disney on Ice event, which was kind of disorganized, but we got through it. Nothing much else. How have you been, Gio?
Pretty much the same. Disney on Ice was very hectic. Schedule was all over the place. But, it is what it is.
We went bowling on Friday.
Oh, yeah, we went bowling on Friday.
And then Dom spent a lot of money at Little Tokyo, and that was the only thing that happened.
It was an interesting investment. Do I regret it? A little, buyer's remorse, but it's fails final at the end of the day.
Yeah, and then Dom, you have probably the weakest immune system known to man at this point, because this is like your third time being sick in just this month.
Yes, it's the coughing is not getting better, but I don't feel sick. But the cough just randomly like outburst, if you know what I mean. I didn't cough as much yesterday at work.
You were completely fine Friday.
Oh yeah, I was. That's what I'm saying. Normally I'm very quiet with my coughs. I always try to hide it. But today waking up in the morning, the coughing was just constant, and it was very just loud, not good. I'm drinking the medicine, and I'm still going strong. Not really, but you know what I mean.
Well, hope you get better. And then real quick, as far as me, it's a very cold morning here today. I was very cold. Like I said, we went bowling on Friday. It was pretty cool. We walked around Little Tokyo. A lot of eventful stuff. And then, other than that, haven't been doing much. I am preparing for tomorrow, where, of course, I got to do my episode on the Eagles game. But Mr. Solis and I are going to be doing our top 10 wrestling matches of the year. And that will be fun to do. I got to still finish up my script for that. Next week, we decided, next Monday, if, schedules align, we'll be doing our top 10 albums of the year. And I look forward to writing up the script for that and going through the lengthy process of choosing my top 10. And other than that, I've been doing pretty well. But so we'll get into today's topic right away. And that is a tier list. Another tier list coming to you from the Rule 34 podcast. And today we are going to rank the Overwatch 2 characters so far. What is it, like we're 1 week into season 2? 1 week into, it's only been 1 week of Overwatch, and look at all that we've gone through. Those comp games are well, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Those comp games and comp sessions are no joke, man. They've put like 50 years on our lives at this point.
Yeah. We had good games though. Yeah. Not so good ones.
I've always said it. My biggest issue with Overwatch is just it's crazy how easily the momentum can change. Not only just in game, but like as a whole, where we went and won 6 games in a row with no losses, and then some people who were there for the game before 7 in a row, no losses. And for those of us that got 6 wins, we just needed one more win to rank up, and then we played like 5 more games and lost every single one of them,
They do bad.
That's always the most difficult part of this game. But so we're ranking them, and we're basically ranking them, as usual, S, A, B, C, D. Ranking them based off of, if you want to say just how good we think they are, how viable we think they are in this current season. And obviously, don't take the tier list too seriously, because we're just 3 people who play the game. It's not like we actually if you want to say know stuff like strategies and metas. Like we obviously keep up with the stuff, but we're not like experts, if you want to say, This is just our opinion. So we'll start off. Where do you guys want to start, from the very top or the very bottom?
I think we should start at to the very bottom.
All right. So starting off with the D tier. First one I'll throw out there, just because he's the new hero. I have Ramatra in the D tier, just because not only in quick play, but even competitive, I have him in D tier just because he's been so underwhelming in a sense, Like, not a lot. He's not been getting picked a lot. Obviously, he can't get picked in comp yet, but, like, in quick play, anytime he played against him, sure, he's had, like, flashes, but he's been really, like, one of the least viable tanks in the game.
Yeah, I also put him on D for the same reason. He's been very underwhelming since his release. I don't know. Blizzard was hyping him up. Like, oh, he has 2 forms. He's a tempo tank. He's gonna be like intimidating to face on the battlefield. And then we get him, and then like all the streamers and all the pro players are like, oh, Ramasha's actually not that good. He's not what was advertised, and then they've been saying that he's fun. I played maybe like 2 matches with him, and it was alright. But the expectations for the new tank were set way too high for what we actually got. So he's definitely a D tier.
Yeah, what's it called? I was watching. I saw a TikTok from Flats where he was talking about like the different tanks, and he was saying that like he was looking at like for contenders, how would they use Ramatra, and it was literally going to a corner, putting your shield up, and when your shield goes down, going to block with Ramatra's arms, and he was like, it's literally just playing block body, and that is one of the most boring things to have to watch. So, yeah, I don't know. Where do you have Ramatra ranked on?
I have him at D. Only reason being that I don't really know how to play him at this point. I'm still trying to learn. But so far, every trial has just been an error, per se. And every time I see him to be used by another player playing him as tank, I just feel like it's not the best of the best, right? As compared to like Reinhardt or damage dealing as Roadhog. And I don't feel like his main attack is the best per se. Mm-hmm. It's only very good against like Reinhardt and Winston, right? With the fact that his weapon can go through the shield, which I feel like is a bit overpowered considering it kind of goes, against every other weapon that just simply gets blocked by the shield. And it kind of doesn't make sense that it just happens to be, this is the only tank that can just shoot through any shield possible, which, and the fact that it also goes through each other player behind the shield. So.
Yeah, I get you.
I don't like it. I don't like that at all.
Definitely been an underwhelming character. Alright, so keeping up with the tank thing, in D tier I also have Wrecking Ball. I know some people know how to play ball, but every time we've gotten into a game with someone who decides to play Wrecking Ball as tank, just has never ended up well. And similar to Ramatra, I think he's one of the least viable tanks, especially in this meta where it's just like, I don't know, I just feel like he doesn't fit. I don't know about you guys and where you have Hammond at.
I also put him on D for basically like there's like really good like, ball players, and you could just never kill them, but it's very rare. And for the majority of the time, I feel people pick ball just to contest the point. So over time, it's like, oh, you have to get there quickly, pick ball, swing, get there. But besides that, he needs a little buff, I guess.
What about you, Don?
Yeah, I put the ball at D. Playing against him, it's literally one of the worst experiences ever if your aim is not good, especially when he's in ball form, constantly attached to the payload and constantly just moving around. And I don't think his ultimate is that good as well. It's just area denial just doesn't. I feel like they could have done way more than that, but it's just literally just placing landmines on you when you can just destroy them. So it's not the best. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. On to the next hero. I'm going to continue the tank train. Orisa I have in D tier as well because though she is pretty good at times, especially when you build certain comps around her. Again, I just feel like not only is she not that good in this meta, but she's rarely picked now, especially compared to the start of season 1 where a lot of people were using her. I think that's another thing to take into account with some of these rankings is just simply the pick rate, and in the games we've been in, she's never been one of the tanks being played, maybe they'll switch to her mid game, when it's on escort, maybe they'll switch to her depending on the map to the second point, but then they automatically switch back for the final point, she doesn't seem as viable for first and last pushes, and I think that's why we don't see her picked as often in our games. What about you guys? Where do you guys have Orisa ranked?
For me personally, I put Orisa in B tier because I don't know. There's always really good Orisa players that always tank forward, and somehow, especially when playing against, I can never be able to to destroy her unless we have other people to assist. But if it's a 1v1, she's gonna activate her little abilities, and the fact that she could also void your attacks by unleashing with the javelin spin. It's just I don't know. It's always very difficult to destroy her. And it's always you always have to use Kiriko's ability to just constantly throw more damage before she unleashes her ability again, which only makes things even worse. So constant damage is prominent, but if you don't have it, it's practically impossible.
I like that analysis. What about you, Gio?
I put her on B tier because she has my voice. She has really strong potential if you play her a certain way. I feel like Orisa is more of a. I mean, she does have her golden form, but that's not really enough to keep her up by herself. So she kind of has to play around corners a lot, and on specific maps like Dorado, I feel like since there's a lot of a tight street with a lot of corners here and there, if she plays around that, she could be impossible to kill. So I put her on B because of the potential that she has. She can't be any higher than that because she needs a buff in order to do so, and she really can't compete against the tanks that I put for S and A.
All right, and I think just so to not confuse different people or people listening, I think I don't know if you guys agree, but I think we should break it down by role, when it comes to ranking these, just so it's easier to follow. So, moving on to the next tank, we're doing tank role. Junker Queen, I have at C tier. Where do you guys have her at? Because you mentioned, Orisa needing a buff. Junker Queen got a buff, but I still don't think it was enough to make her such a viable pick, where it's almost similar to Ball and Orisa for at least me. Or not really Orisa, but, when it comes to when you queue into a comp game, and someone picks Ball or Junker Queen, people almost feel like they're throwing the game, They even with that buff, she's obviously a bit better, but she's still not the best, most viable tank to queue in with,
Interesting. Okay, so yeah, with Junker Queen, personally, I don't really see her much as being viable in terms of, being the best of the best in terms of, how do you call it? Ultimate, ult damage, or how sometimes when it comes to ultimates, the ultimates can completely change the entire course of the game, in very small shorts of time. with Jungle Queen, she doesn't really do much. Not only that, but she doesn't do that much damage. She doesn't have, she can't shield an entire team. She can't like quickly like jump across places as compared to like Winston. She does have like better walking speed as compared to like Reinhardt, I think, if I remember correctly. Her ultimate only literally dashes her if the team is not willing to dive onto a point or into a specific position. A Jungle Queen will literally just throw herself onto just death if she doesn't have everybody following her when it comes to her ult. So I'm gonna put her at D because I don't think she's that useful.
All right. What about you, Gio? Where'd you have Jungle Queen?
I also put Jungle Queen on D because I watched Flatz's review on the patch notes, and according to him, her buffs were not actually buffs. She kind of got like a little nerf in it. So she's like very pretty. I don't know. I feel like Jungle Queen at the beginning of season 1 was really good. She had potential to be one of like the stronger tanks, but then they nerfed her, and then with this, they kind of like pushed her down even more. Her ultimate is kind of very situational. Like you have to pair it up with other stuff. Like by herself, it's very useless. Like yes, she could anti the entire team, but if you can't capitalize on it, you just wasted your ult. And her kit is she's a very fun character to play, but competitively she can't stand on her own as a tank. So yeah, she's at the bottom for me.
All right. Moving on to the next tank, Zarya. I have her in C just because compared to last season, with how much she got picked and how much play she got, kind of decreased. Still a good pick for tank, but the nerf definitely has a lot of people playing her less and definitely sees a lot more people struggling to play her and adjusting to that nerf that happened to her. What about you guys?
Dominic, hello.
Let me think. Let me cook. Do you mind going first?
See, Zarya, I put her on A. If we had to because before pre-patch, she was strong, really strong, unkillable. And we we saw in that one game with the enemy Zarya went, how many kills did you get on us? 50?
72.
72 kills on us, or eliminations on us. Literally we couldn't do anything. The rest of the team stopped playing. It was literally just her killing us. So she was very strong. But then post-patch, I don't know, we don't really see her that much anymore. She comes up here and there, but they just end up switching to a different tank, to Roadhog, maybe, or Winston. So she's still, she's a viable choice because she wasn't, nuked. She's kind of, her bubbles, they nerfed her bubbles and they nerfed something else, I don't remember. But yeah, she's still strong. You just kind of have to. It's not an easy W anymore. Kind of actually have to work for it.
Yeah, I also agree with that. I feel like pre-patch Zarya, it was very difficult, especially when she would be pocketed by a Mercy or Moira, especially with Mercy. Post-patch, I feel like, as Gio's mentioned, I don't really see her being thrown into, just general matches these days. But I feel like she still has a lot of potential, especially when she has her beam charged up to the max. And it's not fun when it's charged up to the max, especially when everybody's constantly shooting, just to shoot. But when she has her bubble on, and it's still causing damage to her, it's not good once it quickly charges up. And I feel like the charge up should be slightly lowered in terms of the speed it goes up, because I feel like it just goes up a bit too fast, and then she gets immediately powerful, and then being pocketed by a Mercer, regardless if she has a bubble on or not, it just makes the enemy team just not in a good state. Not in a good state.
Interesting takes. All right. next tank, Diva. I have her also in C because basically don't ever really see her played, and when it comes to the dive meta, Winston's probably a more viable pick, you know. Winston has better mobility. Winston, you know, I don't want to say because I don't know fully the statistics, but it feels like he has a higher damage output when you're playing with him, you know. Diva's obviously could be a bit better than Winston's at time because get a good Diva who can land that ult right and you are getting multi-kills every single time and, you know, helping your team push that payload or holding point, you know, whatever it may be. But I just never see her get picked enough to warrant a rating higher above C, and the time she does get picked, sometimes the dive meta just doesn't work as well when compared to when we have a Winston, you know.
I see.
I put Diva on B. Kind of for the same reasoning. I feel like she's like a good Diva. Will be able to harass everyone and, you know, stay alive. Because I feel like the Divas that we play with, they're not, they don't really use her boost like a lot. Like they should, like, kind of, I don't know. It's kind of difficult because I feel like in like top 500 and GM, there's like a Divas there, like they're good. Like she's a viable pick, but in low elo is kind of like, eh.
Yeah, and we could.
She's like in the middle, depending on how good the player is.
Yeah, and we can only really talk about like from our experience, you know. Sure, higher elo players will obviously be better, but in our experience, they're not that good. What about you, though? Where do you have Diva?
I put Diva on. It's either between B or C, but I decided to put her on B because her what's it called, Void Matrix or something like that. It's really good at destroying the other team in terms of if they throw in like an ultimate, her little matrix can just annihilate it, you know, immediately. And any other, like, you know, like let's say it's Bastion, just with Diva, you know, placed in front of Bastion, she completely avoids all damage coming from Bastion. However, I feel like the rockets are completely useless. The ultimate, I feel like it should be okay in terms of the amount of damage it causes in terms of the vicinity. If you just get behind like the payload, like while like she just throws it on top or like right next to it, you can just completely negate all the damage that's coming in. However, at times like in choke points and, you know, very narrow bottlenecks, the ultimate can like absolutely annihilate an enemy team if they don't have a Reinhardt or a Winston, and like the enemy team can't find a hiding place, you know, just to negate the damage. It is very good, but I feel like the ultimate should maybe get the same how would you say physics as like a CS:GO bomb goes off. So it doesn't matter if you're hiding, but if you're within like a specific radius of the blast, you should get damage. But if you're just like right next to it, you know, in blast distance, but you somehow hide behind like a lamppost and you don't get damage, I feel like that shouldn't realistically be right. But a good Diva is very well in the battlefield, so I'm gonna put her on B.
I don't agree with her rockets being useless. Her rockets plus like her actual like normal fire rate can like melt squishies.
Yeah, when you do them at the same time, you know, it's pretty good. But moving on to the next tank, Reinhardt. Where do you guys have Reinhardt? I have him in B because I just feel like I have him in B because like that's the middle ground for me, and it's like he'll always be a solid pick. You can always come up with good team compositions around him, but at least in this current moment in Season 2, he's not the best tank, you know.
Yeah, I also put him on B because depending on the matchup, like if the enemy team doesn't have like their own Reinhardt or a Winston that could, you know, bubble and like stop his shatter, he's literally like they have the advantage because he shatters and then the entire team just gets wiped. He's a very viable pick. I also put him on B.
Yeah, and one thing I quickly want to mention, another reason I have him at B, and it's not to spoil a future ranking, but what's it called? Symmetra got buffed, so a lot more pick rate for her, And when she's picked, you literally cannot play Reinhardt, you know? It's pretty useless to play shield tank when you have Symmetra's turrets up like that, you know? And then plus, I'm pretty sure they gave Bastion a buff, and so like he just shreds Reinhardt's shield every single time. So he's not the most viable right now. What about you, Dom? I know this is your boy, but what's your ranking for him?
Yeah, okay. So I've yet to actually even touch Reinhardt because I've been constantly placing support this whole time. But beforehand, playing Reinhardt was always a little bit difficult for me considering that shield had to be placed up. And it was very quickly lost to like Bastions or like, Bastions, Reapers, Soldiers, Sojourns, especially with Roadhog with his ultimate, absolutely just shreds the shield. Push maps, it's a bit odd, especially with now Symmetra, as you guys mentioned, with Symmetra's turrets and all that stuff. Or what's even worse with like Torbjorn, if he were to place his turret, he's constantly, and if it's constantly pointed at you, and you have your shield up, it's constantly gonna be, shred apart. His ultimate is I feel like it should be maybe slightly buffed with like a bit more time on the stun. I think what's worse with him is the amount of time it takes to do the slam. I remember multiple times, mostly it's my fault, that Roadhog in front of me throws his thing with his ultimate, and then I throw my thing with my ultimate, but since I'm constantly thrown into the air, I can't finish the slam, meaning I die before I even get to use the ult. But, that in and of itself, the fact that you have to slam it, physically, your character has to touch the ground before anything else, with that small amount of time can mean a lot in terms of, you changing the entire course of the game. But if you can't slam, because you get thrown up into the air for whatever reason, it's either Sigma, it's either Lucio, it's either Roadhog, it just becomes useless and you lose your ult. But, so I will put him in B because it's been quite difficult.
I feel like his stun should be like similar to Overwatch 1, where you could get like more than one swing in before they get up again. Because I think in Overwatch 1 you could get like 3 swings and like, pretty much kill all the squishies before they even get a chance to get up. But now it's literally like you get one swing in and like they're up again. It's like kind of pointless. You use them all and then they're up immediately, all healed again. It's like, if you don't take advantage of it, it's pretty much you just wasted your ult. Anyways, the next tank. Well, do you guys want to do Roadhog?
Sure. Let's do Roadhog. Let's talk about the man of the hour. I have him at S tier because just of how insane he's been to play against this season, especially because last season he wasn't even this viable, Like, he basically saw 0 pick rate last season for us because, like, what was mainly being played was just Winston, It was just Winston and Reinhardt last season and Zarya. And now he's skyrocketed back to being the top pick because of his buff. Or did he even get a buff? I don't know what it was, but he just saw a higher pick rate this season. And it's been a hell for support players because this man literally has a one-shot, He can just hook you, shoot you, and melee you, and boom, you're dead like that.
I also put him on S tier because of, I don't know, he's a very viable pick. He's like, one of the only picks that you could pick nowadays. It's kind of like both tanks start off on like, whatever, and it's like, the other tank is doing this at Roadhog, and it's pretty much they stay on Roadhog for the other map, like the entire game. It's very annoying, especially like when he hooks you and like the hook was nowhere near you, but he still somehow got it, and then he like hits you. And, like, it's really, he's, like, the most annoying, especially when you have, like, one shot, but then he just vapes, and, like, he's, like, completely immune during the healing process, and he just gets 500 HP back, and then his healers save him, like, get him even more. He's, like, the most annoying tank to go up against. Like, you think you got him, but then, he just has to press E, he starts healing, you can't kill him while he heals, and he has 500 HP again, 600 HP again. I think it heals him full. I don't know.
I
It's
don't
really
know.
annoying.
And I want to say he had a buff in health this game because he has like 700 health now. And obviously this was the start of Overwatch 2 because I remember him only having, I think it was 600 in Overwatch 1. So I was so surprised when Overwatch 2 came around and I saw he had 700 health. Absolutely insane. And like Flats was saying when he was reviewing some of the different tanks, he tried to do Sigma's rock punch and then his primary fire, and even that wouldn't kill a 250 character. But he was like saying like it's insanity that Roadhog has lasted this long when he literally can one shot 250 heroes like Reaper, like it's nothing.
Yeah.
What about you, Dom?
I was thinking very much about Roadhog. I put him in S tier. He's very. If the buff is true about the 700 health, that's crazy. That's insane. Before he used to be what, like 650 or 600?
No, in Overwatch 1 he used to be 600, and then we got to Overwatch 2, like the very start, and that's when I saw he has 700 now.
Okay. So this buff is crazy, and I don't recall how much health his healing thing does again, but the fact that he's a tank that can heal himself too is pretty crazy. The ultimate is insane. He constantly can push everybody out, especially within a room. If he unleashes an ult at the enemy within a room and they have nowhere to go, especially if they're cornered up, and just absolutely annihilate them. The only thing that can possibly stop Roadhog is if you sleep with Ana on Roadhog, or you throw I don't know, Maze, Ice, Freeze, ultimate thing on him. Other than that, there's nothing really much stopping the guy. And not any worse if you're on a map where he could hook you off like a cliff or into that one well in that one map. It's practically over unless you're like Lucio or Pharah. But I think Roadhog has been constantly annihilating these days. A good Roadhog will absolutely annihilate the enemy team.
Yeah, definitely. And while we're on the topic of making life hell for supports, Doomfist. Where do we have Doomfist? I have him at S tier right next to Roadhog because, I mean, we haven't seen him too often, like in the past couple of days, but those first couple of days where people were just picking Doomfist and having Doomfist offs, and just absolutely making life hell for supports because this man's mobility is insane, where he punches in, he starts doing mad damage, he blocks off attacks to heal himself back up, and then if he's still low, boom, his fist cooled down, so now boom, he's getting out of there to get heals, or he's still up on health, he's using his fist to punch someone and get them killed immediately, like picking on the supports, picking on the squishy DPSs, and not even worrying about the other main tank. He's been insane so far and made life hell for supports, but I would say not as much as Roadhog in the past couple of days.
I made my own. I made my own separate tier list for Doomfist. Broken. He's literally if the majority of the opposition team has low sense, you can't compete. You're shooting at him, and then he just dives over your head, and then you have to swing your arm 2 times to go on the other side, and by then he's diving back over you. It's literally impossible to play against Doomfist on a low sensitivity, and just his entire kit with the buffs, it's ridiculous. He's if the entire team doesn't focus him, he literally will never die, and all of your entire back line, including DPS, cannot compete against his stun and his stupid little hand pistol thing. He's I don't know. They give him too much of a buff.
What do you say, Dom?
I'm putting him in A tier because although the buffs are pretty strong, I feel like we ourselves have been able to take over some enemy players playing as Doomfist. However, if the enemy is playing Doomfist and they're very good at it, I feel like it is almost impossible to annihilate them, unless they're, especially if they're being pocketed by a Mercy, or even worse, by both supports. or even worse, if they're added boosted. It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, and I think the one thing to mention as well is what warrants them having such a high ranking in our tier list of Roadhog and Doomfist. If they're picked as the enemy's tank, you're literally forced to change your whole team composition towards countering either Roadhog or Doomfist, especially the support players. You can start off the game trying to run like Lucio Carrico, Moira, Lucio, Moira Bap, whoever supports you want. The moment they have a Roadhog or a Doomfist, you have to instantly switch to an Ana or or stay as Baptiste, to have that immortality field, to have Ana's sleep and anti, so that you can stop their movement and then anti them so they can't get back up and get a ton of healing. They're literally insane right now in the current season because of just how much they warrant change and forcing others to have to change their play style and characters and team composition. It's really insane what they are right now. I don't expect it to last too long because I don't know. I've always made Overwatch 2, or not just Overwatch 2, but Overwatch players upset by saying this, but I literally just think that the game is better when Doomfist and Roadhog aren't viable picks in the game.
I feel like during the mid-season patch, they're going to either remove something from the buffs that they gave him, or they're going to buff someone else to counter the Doomfist pick. Leaving off our last tank, no, there's 2 more tanks.
2 more.
Yep, so let's go with Sigma.
I got Sigma at B. I don't think he's one of the best picks this season, but he's definitely still can be a good pick, especially depending on the team comp around him.
I put him on A, just because a good Sigma, it's very hard to deal with, and if they're being pocketed if they have good support, he just won't die, and then his ultimate is really good. It I don't know, it just kind of stops the game completely, and if you're able to get picks while they're on the air, or get them low enough so when they come down they die, he's a really good tank for that.
What about you, Dom?
Yeah, I agree as well. I feel like a good Sigma can have damage be negated with the shield, but I feel like it's not as strong. Obviously, because of the less amount of damage that it could take as compared to a Reinhardt shield. But the ultimate, I feel like it is very strong, and especially as Gio mentioned, if you can begin to lower down their health, I feel like the ult itself can do very good onto the squishies, as per se. But when it comes to let's say whatchamacallit, payload maps, you could use it as sort of strategy tactic to physically move the character models away from the payload, so you could constantly keep moving it and potentially land yourself a win if you're bottlenecked at the end of to capture the final point. So it's very good. I like it. And his backstory slaps too. I like it.
Yes, everyone loves Sigma's lore. Final tank, Winston. Where do you guys have Winston? S? You still have S here?
Yeah. He's still a very strong pick. Yeah. If they're good monkeys.
I have
bad monkey, then I don't know.
I have him at A just because he's still very much one of the best tanks to play, but kind of difficult to play him at times depending on what the other teams run, especially if they're running a Doomfist or a Roadhog. Very, very. He can somewhat do well against a Roadhog because he has the mobility to escape that hook, but I don't think he has the damage to match Roadhog. But you can still get some really good team comps out of Winston. What about you, Dom?
I put Winston at A. he's very strong. His shield is not so bad as well, considering it's like a a circle, not a circle, like a circle radius per se. It's not so bad. Also, even better, they can be like placed down on a payload, so you could have it moving along with you. It can be quickly destroyed, however, like by a Bastion or by a Reaper, by a Soldier, and all that stuff. His ultimate is also very good at knocking people out of the way. I haven't seen it used in the best of cases per se. I haven't seen it used to like completely change the entire like switch games around. But in terms of the amount of damage he gets, and as well as the healing capabilities that he gets back into himself on his ultimate, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But I haven't seen him completely change the courses of the game. He's strong, but he doesn't change the course of the game like immediately per se.
Yeah, and he's definitely.
I remember.
Continue.
I was gonna I remember saying in Overwatch 1 during OWO, there was like this really iconic moment of Winston using his ult, and I think he chased a Pharaoh into the sky, but because of his like low cooldown on the jump, he was able to keep up. And after he killed the Pharaoh, he made it back onto the map, so he didn't die. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, Winston has always had some pretty insane mobility, and he's definitely not as strong as he was season 1, but still very much a viable pick for this current season. Alright, but that's all the tanks finished, but we only have about 3 minutes left on this episode, so we're going to do a part 2, because thankfully, at the time being, Gio and Dom do not have work, and hopefully they don't get called in during the middle of this, but we'll see you in part 2, where we finish up the Overwatch 2 tier list, where we cover the support heroes, and then the damage as well.